22. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Staff will take the vote by name and announce the result.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams? The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we have our presentations. First presentation today will be on the update. Mr. Emmanuel Nunez, Manager of Retail Sales and Revenue, will present the Flamingo Fair update. Mr. Nunez, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board here, or the committee. My name for the record, Emmanuel Nunez, Manager of Retail Sales and Revenue. The purpose of this presentation is to provide you an actual update on the Flamingo Fairs. I know it's been requested, so here we are to provide you at least some information. And I'll go through this agenda to see the topic that we're covering through this presentation. So, Flamingo Fairs, where we have it installed, the system, where we have installed, we have it at least in 3 locations at this moment. The Flamingo Fairs monthly taps, and it kind of shows you where we at, and it gives you like a perspective of about a year of tapping activity and in comparison to our fare box. Also, sales channels, where actually we're selling these passes and what are we doing at this location and how do people are getting their card replenished. Also, corporate partnership, we have about top 5 of our corporate partnership that are producing some of our ridership as well. Provide you a state of affairs, what is the current status on our Flamingo system, and also an area for questions and comments that you may have. So, Flamingo Fairs, currently we have it installed at Hernando County, Hillsborough County, and Pinellas County. So, with one card, one mobile app, what we're trying to do is making sure the customer can pay with one media in any jurisdiction that is within the Flamingo network. There's no need for the customer to carry any other passes from the other agency because our system just kind of calculates that for themselves. Oops. All right. Here's kind of like a picture of about a year from January 2021 to about February 22. That's how much we have the data tabulated. So with this graph, we'd like to show you this year, compare it to actually the data that we have collected through our legacy system, which is the GFI fare boxes. You can see the pink columns are actually the Flamingo Fair rides. The blue columns are the GFI fare box rides. The black line you see on top is just represent the trend of adoption of Flamingo Fair throughout each month. For example, we have the Flamingo Fair rides in February. There were about 23.5% of the fare boxes that use, in the fare boxes, we kind of take payments of cash and paper passes. Flamingo Fair's distribution channels. So we have the transit centers, we have the mobile app, we have corporate partners, which they sell bus passes for us or there's actual Flamingo cards. We also have the customer website, and we have our RVR system. And as you see in the columns, is kind of a check mark for what kind of functionality represents each location. So, for example, we have the transit center, which a customer could register their card. They could actually pick up a card. They could reload. We could reload virtual card as well. They could, anything that is possible, any question that is needed from a customer at a personal level, we could do that at those transit center. Then we have the mobile app, which is kind of, you're able to use your manage or pay with your account. Corporate partnership, we have about 30 corporate accounts. The top 5 accounts, they represent 25% of our ridership when it comes to Flamingo Fairs. In Hillsborough County, we have Hillsborough County, Sunshine, Vocational Rehab, Casper Company, and the Children's Board. They represent throughout at least the last 5 months, they represent about 25% of our ridership when it comes to Flamingo. So they've been really important in our adoption rate. And just to give you kind of like a graphical of what's going on here, started from the fiscal year, October 2021. And as you see, increasing the adoption rates, it's required to actually, to reach out to our partners to assist different groups and different public needs transportation. So we have been working closely within the county and private entity to transition to the new electronic fare collection system. This graph is showing you since the beginning of FY22 the impact that the partnership has had in the transition. Again, 25% of our monthly rides are generated by the clients and our employees of the entities like Hillsborough County, Sunshine Line, Vocational Rehab, Casper Company, and the Children's Board to, repeat again, the actual groups. So in the graph, the blue column is just representing the ridership of our partners. The pink column is representing our total ridership for the month within Flamingo. All right. Reason for this presentation, state of affairs. So as we collected a lot of our data, we have noticed, questions from our customers. Our customers just come back and ask, okay, we hear this, Flamingo is not working. That seems to be, I guess, the word out there, but we're here to rectify them. So we collect every tap, good or bad, from the card or the mobile app. Either Fare Media or the app or the physical card has an interaction with the validator. The validator is the little black box that I'm showing on the screen. This data is collected. So what we have noticed with this data is the errors. 22% of the errors tend to be user rate error. Most of the issue is the interaction between the Fare Media and the customer as they approach the validator. Just the way that they're approaching the validator, they just go in and swipe the card, or they just tap it or move it around. That's usually what happens. Another example is when the customer taps and the operator does not really see the person. Sometimes we have a pass-back rule, so you can only tap once. So that could happen as well. So those are very minimal errors. They get rectified with education. So we have had another challenge as well. So we had the customer preferring using our legacy system, our passes. They know the passes, they see it, they touch it, they understand it. They've been using it for over 20 years. So they understand this passes. So, and also one more thing before I forget, the fare capping concept. That's something that the customer have had a hard time understanding. And we have been putting a lot of emphasis on trying to let the customer know that this is part of the system. So knowing these challenges, we have increased our dedication with our operators and also with our customers. So with operators, Flamingo Fare team became a part of the operator orderly safety training, where we kind of review, we receive feedback from operators. We kind of show them, okay, this is where we are with Flamingo, and this is how you're able to approach certain situations with our customers. So in addition to all this, all the feedback, not just from the operator, but we also receive from route supervisors, customer service reps. They do get a lot, some phone calls about it. And when we had this multiple session, there were two types of sessions. There were WebEx or there were in person. So, and this happened very recent, the latest one was between March 21st to April 2nd. So with our customers, we educate every person also at the University Transit Center and Marion Transit Center. We also, we have a dedicated representative on the phone that for them is just to receive every phone call pertaining to Flamingo to address any issue the customer may have. And with this, I will finalize my presentation and with some questions.
Okay. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. Nunez? Don't see any. Thank you very much. Good presentation. Thank you for your update. Okay, next presentation will be the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise DBE and the Small Business Enterprise, the SBE programs. Ms. Linda Walker, the DBE Coordinator, is here to present. You are recognized, Ms. Walker. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Linda Walker. I am the DBE coordinator. And I'm here to talk with you about the disadvantaged business enterprise and the small business enterprise programs with HEART. Okay, the purpose of our HEART Disadvantaged Business Program is to ensure that DBEs and small businesses have an equal opportunity to receive DOT-assisted contracts. Oh,
You're okay.
okay, and today we are going to define the DBEs and SBEs and explain the federal requirements of the DBE and SBE program and how we meet the federal requirements to foster the small business participation, the DBE goal requirements, and our next step. Okay, a DBE is a small business. The federal cap size is $28.48 million, and it's owned by ethnic minorities and women, and it is a race-conscious program. Okay, here in the state of Florida, our DBEs are certified through the Florida Unified Certification Program, where there are 49 members, including HEART. Only 9 of the members can process certification. And here locally, we refer businesses to the Tampa airport if they want to become a DBE. Okay, our small businesses, the SBEs, they are certified small businesses. DBEs, they are deemed eligible due to the size requirement only, not minority or women or the fact that they are minorities. The competition is limited to size only, and it is our race-neutral program. FTA allows set-asides for small businesses. They do not allow set-asides for DBEs. HEART can reserve acquisitions exclusively for the small business. Okay. Small businesses that are registered in our HEART vendor compliance system, they must upload proof of SBE certification. And we accept SBE certifications from the local government and from the state, as well as the U.S. System Award Management, and other government entities are considered. Okay, in addition to FTA goals for subcontracting, HEART averages around $1.5 million per year on prime contracts to small businesses, and an average of 40 certified small businesses each year receive prime contracts in the past 3 years. And this is a sample of some of the public outreach to our small businesses throughout the year to educate and to increase SBE participation. And these are snapshots of some of our public outreach. Now we're going to talk about the documentations and the documents required by FTA. Our DBE program is on file, it's kept on file with FTA, and we only update it if there are significant changes in our organizations or significant changes in the code of federal regulations. The overall goal and methodology is due every 3 years, and our current one is due this August 1st of this year. There are semi-annual reports that are due because you have to report on the overall goal throughout the year. Our current goal is 8%, but our proposed goal for fiscal year 2023 and 2025 will be 13.9%. We use the federally prescribed method to calculate the 3-year DBE goal. We look at the elements of work for subcontractors, And then we research the local market, which is Hillsborough and the 4 surrounding counties, for available DBEs. And then we divide that by the number of non-DBEs in the local market to arrive at our base figure. From there, we have to adjust the base figure with the median past participation DBE goals from the past 5 years. Okay, our next steps is we will go out to the public to allow review and comment into the proposed goal. We will refine the goal if necessary, and then we will submit that goal to FTA. After submission to FTA, we have to set goals on FTA-assisted contracts. So we use the FTA matrix calculation by weighing the elements of work that can be subcontracted against the total cost of the contract and available number of DBEs to come up with a contract goal. And this is one of the shelter projects that are shown on the slide. Prime contractors will attach a subcontractor utilization form to the contract so that we will be able to verify if those subcontractors are DBEs. And I have given you an overview of our DBE and SBE program. I have explained the federal requirements of the program, reviewed HART's efforts to foster small business participation, and talked about the FTA goal requirements and our next steps. And we are here to answer any questions you may have about the program.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Are there any questions from members of the committee? I don't see any. I did have one. We talked about set-asides. Do we have our goals, but do we have set-asides in our specific contracts
And
for the SBE?
starting this fiscal year, was the first year we started the implementation of set-aside for SBEs.
Well, we have solicitation, but is that different? Is that different from a set-aside?
It is the same, but when we look at the project at the beginning of the year, we try to reserve it to be for strictly SBEs if it's 100,000
Okay.
and under.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Walker. Have a great afternoon. Okay, moving forward. The next presentation deals with the HART audit reports. Ms. Strope will present. Thank you. Welcome. And you're with Cherry Beckert.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. Good morning. My name is Lauren Strope, and I am a director with Cherry Beckert, and I had the honor of working on the audit this year. So I did want to point out that we are not complete with our audit. We are in the process of completing the audit for the financial statements year ended September 30th of 2021. And this presentation goes on to go into the nature, the timing, and the extent of our audit procedures. What we're open for on the audit right now is some selections for AR testing. And once that is complete, we will be ready to render our report. Is there a question? Sorry.
I'm having difficulty understanding what you're saying. I hope nobody else is.
I have difficulty.
Okay, we didn't understand what you said. Could you talk a little more to the mic? Thank you.
Not a problem at all.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay,
That's better.
perfect. All right, so we are not complete with the audit. We are still in the process of completing the audit. What is open is some AR testing, so some testing of accounts receivables. Once that testing is complete, we will be ready to render our audit opinion. This presentation really covers the nature, the extent, and the timing of our audit procedures thus far. So we actually follow a variety of different auditing standards when we complete the audit of the annual comprehensive financial report, or the ACFR. So the first standard that we follow is generally accepted accounting standards. And what that requires us to do is to get an understanding of the financial statements and to ensure that they're free from any sort of material misstatement or omission of disclosure. So basically what we do is we ensure that the financial statements prepared by management are in line with GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles. So our GAS checks their GAAP and makes sure that we can render our opinion. The second opinion that we issue is called Government Auditing Standards, and that is required as you are a government. That requires us to look into into internal controls over financial reporting. We actually don't opine on internal controls, but if we become aware of any situations or lacks of internal controls, we are required to make you aware of them, and we'll talk and touch on that a little bit later in this presentation. It's also called a yellow book reporting. The third set of standards that we follow relate to your federal and state single audit dollars or the grant fundings that you get. We do issue an opinion not only on compliance, but on internal control over that compliance for those grant programs. We also issue a management letter in line with Florida State Chapter 10.550 Rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida. That also requires us to issue an examination report in line with Florida State statute as well. We are planning on all of these reports being clean reports this year, except for the gas letter, which we will touch on here in a second. So we did communicate to you all the plan, scope, and timing in our engagement letter, which was dated August 19th. There were several delays in audit procedures, and we'll kind of get into that. Generally speaking, our audit takes place during the course of November and December. Then we wait on the pension allocation from the state. That is updated, and then we issue in February. Obviously, this is not.
Something's changed. And you've had, not you, something's with the audio. Because this is important. I want to make sure that we all hear what
Of course.
That was clear.
I'm so sorry.
That's good. Okay, don't nobody move. Okay.
Okay, all right. So we did receive, back in the beginning of the audit, we received several trial balances where they were not consolidated yet. We did work with current management in order to obtain the final trial balances to complete our audit testing, and that is what we are in the process of doing now. I did want to mention that you did not have any changes in your accounting policies this year. All of your accounting policies are described in Note 2 of the financial statements. So if you implemented anything new this year, this would be where I tell you about that. And again, there were none. Some of the significant or unusual transactions this year really has to do with that transportation improvement surtax. And I said the same thing last year. You have a significant restricted cash balance and then a significant restricted net position balance related to that. All of that is disclosed in your financial statements, but again, it is a very material amount, so that's why I'm making you aware of it. The financial statements, I believe you have a draft, are not all hard numbers. Inherently, a lot of management judgment and estimate goes into calculating those numbers. These are some of the significant estimates that we noted during the course of our audit. You have things like the useful life of cap assets, OPEB, pension costs, and self-insurance, which is based on an actuarial report. You have management's assumptions of the allowance for doubtful accounts, which is based on their knowledge of historical collections. And then the estimate of the environmental remediation, which is based on analysis by an independent engineer. So we obtain from management all of their assumptions going into these and make sure that they're reasonable with the financial statements as a whole. We spend a significant amount of time on estimates and judgments as it relates to financial statements. Yeah. Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Not really.
Good. Okay. So again, we evaluated the key factors and assumptions that were used in developing these estimates and determined that they were reasonable in relation to the financials as a whole. Certain financial statement disclosures are particularly sensitive just because of the nature of the disclosure. We believe that to be OPEB and pension. There's a lot of disclosure related to the estimate and what the actuaries do as it relates to the estimate. Professional standards do require me to communicate to you any sort of audit adjustment or past audit adjustment. What an audit adjustment is after management has given me the trial balance, if I as the auditor need to say we need to make the following entries to bring this in alignment with GAAP, that would be an audit adjustment. Right now we are aware of 3 audit adjustments. One is a post-closing entry. Management was unable to ascertain why net position did not roll. So an immaterial entry was booked in order to roll it, but that entry did reduce inventory, so we know that that is understated by that amount. In addition, there was a journal entry related to pension that was posted incorrectly, so instead of going to the deferred outflow, everything went to pension benefit, or basically to the income statement. So that entry had to be reversed to properly reflect the expense this year. As finance prepared the annual comprehensive financial report, it is our job to ensure that all the supplemental schedules, including the schedule of expenditures of federal rewards, ties back to the audited information. When we prepared that reconciliation, the amounts were off. So an additional amount was added to the CFA in the amount of $361,000 to appropriately capture all of the federal expenditures. All of these are listed in as finding 2021 on the statement of findings and question costs. This is still in draft form, as we have not completed our procedures over AR. In addition, I am required to communicate to you uncorrected misstatements. Those are the exact same thing, except for whatever reason, they are not recorded. The first is the impact on inventory, as that was a not known amount. That's going to be a past adjusting entry. The second relates to the 401A plan that later in the year it was realized was not properly set up, and there's an expense associated with that unwind. Because that fact was known at the time, that should have been recorded, and so that is a past adjusting entry as well. We are pleased to report that we didn't have any difficulties or disagreements with management. They were able to provide everything that we asked them for, and made sure that we got everything that we needed. To our knowledge, there are no consultations with other accountants. That would only be relevant if management was relying on another accountant for the financial statements. So if they said, hey, we did this treatment because this CPA told us to, we just want to make sure that both sets of CPAs got to the same information to hopefully come to that same result. We do discuss a variety of things when we retain a client, and so there was nothing other than the normal course of responses and nothing that came to our attention that meant that we could not retain Hart as a client. We will receive a management representation letter at the end of our audit, which will be provided by management. They sign, and essentially it says everything that they provided to us or told us during the course of the audit is true to the best of their knowledge and belief. Additionally, we will issue that management letter that's required by Chapter 10550 Rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida. So that will be issued this year. That looks a little different than it did last year because there are a couple more requirements, as Hart is a special district. But that's a no finding report, so it's simply adding additional information to the letter. In addition to the basic financial statements, your ACFRs actually contain quite a bit of data, such as management's discussion and analysis, the introductory section, and the stats section. As it relates to management's discussion and analysis and the required supplementary information, including the CFA, we make sure that that information ties back to the audited financial statements. With respect to the introductory and statistical section, those are not subject to audit procedures. I believe I mentioned that we did perform that federal and state single audit. On the federal side, we tested the federal transit cluster, which is made up of all of those assisting listing numbers. On the state side, we tested the public transit block program and the public service development program. We had no items resulting in our testing of either internal control or of compliance. So a clean audit as it relates to the single audit. We do believe that management employs an appropriate level of conservatism when preparing the financial statements. We did that through our assessment of the estimates and judgments that we covered earlier. We are required by our standards to inquire of board, management, and others of their knowledge of fraud or illegal acts during the course of our engagement. Nothing was brought to our attention. Had something been brought to our attention, we would have contacted you immediately / worked in procedures into our audits to address those particular risks. We are not currently aware of any relationship that would hinder our independence of heart, either in fact or in appearance. We do complete the NTD report and the data collection form, which relates to those federal single audit dollars, and that will be completed at the conclusion and the issuance of our opinion. I told you that there were no new standards implemented this year, but I would be remiss if I did not point to next year a little bit. You will have GASB Statement 87 is going to be effective for all of the 9/30/2022 audits. So any lease that you have is subject to this. Basically operating leases are going away, and everything will be brought onto the balance sheet. Additionally, I did want to mention that next year, the auditor report on the regular auditor's report over the financial statements will be changing. Right now, the template goes through everyone's responsibility and at the end gives our opinion. The new way, we'll show our opinion first and then go through everyone's responsibility. This is not heart-specific, this is for everybody, so just as a heads up. With that, I'm happy to answer any and all questions you have. I serve at the pleasure of the board, not just now, not just when I'm doing the audit, but year-round, so any and all questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions by the committee members? I do have, I'm sorry, did you?
No, I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and for powering through. I know it was a little difficult there at times, but
Not a problem at all. It's rare that I have to scratch down. Usually I'm the one that has to lean up to be heard.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's very good. I did have a question, the management discussion, the MD&A, coming back to you guys. Were there any issues in there that needed to be addressed?
No.
No. So we essentially have a clean audit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Thank you, Ms. Stroh. Committee action items. Next on the agenda for the committee action items for review of the Finance and Audit Committee and recommendation for approval by the full Board of Directors. Item 6A is for the committee to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to receive and file the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the AFR. In your package, you have a write-up, a proposed resolution, and a draft annual comprehensive financial report in support of this item. Do staff have any, do committee members have any questions or comments for the staff? Seeing none, is there a motion to recommend to the Hart Board of Directors to receive and file the for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021, the annual comprehensive financial report, and advance this item to the full board meeting, full Hart Board of Directors meeting, May 2nd for the regular board meeting?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I didn't hear. Do we have a second? Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Okay, thank you. Could you please take a vote?
Director Kemp?
Yes,
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item, action 6B in your packet, you'll find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to authorize staff to proceed with a solicitation for the procurement of revenue vehicle tire lease services beginning fiscal year 2023. Do the committee members have any comments or questions for staff?
so moved.
I do have one question. Okay, we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is Ms. Stroh still here? Real quick question. The Gatsby lease changes. We lease our tires. Will all of that have to go on the balance sheet now? That's an academic question.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be considered depending on the materiality. Depending on the materiality of the contract, it would definitely be something that needed to be considered. Sorry, one more time. Depending on the materiality of the contract, it would definitely need to be something that is considered, yes.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Just curious. We may have to look at that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Staff, take a vote.
Dr. Kemp?
Yes.
Dr. Knight?
Yes.
Dr. Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next action, item 6C. In your package, you will find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to award a contract to Coach Crafters, Inc. for body services not to exceed amount of $736,800. Do the committee members have any comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Danielle? Okay.
Second.
Okay, excuse me. Please take roll call.
Dr. Kemp?
Yes.
Dr. Knight?
Yes.
Dr. Overman? Chair Schisler?
Yes,
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
thank you. Moving on to the committee action item 6D. In your packet, you will find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a modification to existing contract for the program management services with Cleaver Consulting Group in support of the Regional Interjurisdictional Mobility Project, AKA Flamingo Fair Project, to extend the contract for a 7-month period through December 30th, 2022, with no increase to the contract value. Do the committee members have any comments or questions for staff?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Danielle?
Dr. Kemp?
Yes.
Dr. Knight?
Yes.
Dr. Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next action item 6E. In your package, you will find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to recommend the Hart Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a modification to existing contract for the Tampa Arterial Bus Rapid Transit Study, BRT, with the Alfred Benish and Company, formerly Tinsdale Oliver, to pursue the low-cost alternative improvements to the southern portion of the corridor, to extend the contract for an 18-month period through November 30th, 2023, with no increase to the contract value. Do committee members have any comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, do we have a motion to
So moved.
recommend? Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
second.
Thank you. Danielle, please call
Dr.
roll.
Kemp?
Yes.
Dr. Knight?
Yes.
Dr. Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes,
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Moving on to committee action item 6F. In your packet, you will find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to recommend the Hart Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a joint participation agreement between Hillsborough Transit Authority and the Florida Department of Transportation to initiate tasks 4 and 6 of the Bus Rapid Transit Corridor Design Engineering Study, Low Cost Alternative, LCA. Do committee members have any comments or questions for staff? Could we get a little update on what this one's about? Is there anybody, Ms. LeGrand?
Yes, and I also have Mr. Dianuntis in the back as well, if he'd like to come to the podium if there's any additional questions. But this is a project that we had a presentation, I want to say, maybe it was the last committee meeting, and we have a consultant that's doing the arterial BRT study, and they got to a point in the analysis where they needed to take a pause and revisit some of the options to ensure that we were looking for a low-cost alternative. When they came and did the presentation to the board approved the additional analysis that they conducted, and the committee, rather, agreed that they could move forward, and they had answered all of the previous questions. These questions were posed, I'm going to say probably a year ago, for them to look at some additional areas and making sure that the options were the most cost-effective. So they have completed that phase of analysis, and now what they're going to do is look at tasks 4 and 6, which will allow them to move forward in the development of a low-cost option. Chris, is there anything that you'd like to add or that I left out? Okay, well, thank you, Chris, for the vote of confidence. So that's where we are, so we're asking for approval to move forward. And we don't need additional funding because this was already a part of their original scope and budget, but they just went on pause to do some additional, I would say, due diligence, and now they're ready to proceed with those 2 tasks.
And staff's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schistler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, last action item is 6G. In your packet, you'll find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the Hart Board of Directors to authorize staff to seek public input for setting the 3-year goals for the Hillsborough Transportation Authority, Hart, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, DBE, program, and to submit the 3-year goal to the Federal Transit Authority by August 1st, 2022. Do committee members have any comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schistler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members, for the votes. Next on the agenda is the discussion item for the auditor selection procurement group recommendation. Everybody should have received an email late last week regarding various pieces of information to prepare for this meeting. This is the first meeting of the Auditor Selection Committee, and what we'd like to try and accomplish today to keep on track is to A, approve the timeline, B, approve the proposed vendor list, and then take a look at the statement of work. So has anybody had an opportunity to review that, are there any specific questions for this part? The timeline, if I may, can we move that forward? The timeline is the approval of the preparing so that the request for a proposal can go out this week to the vendors. So if everybody has had, there we go, that's the timeline, to review and finalize the scope of services, and then they can release the RFP this week. Responses are due on the 12th of May, and we would have to have, now bonfire gets done, I'm not sure how the bonfire gets done remotely, or do we have to get back together for bonfire?
You could do it remotely or in person.
Okay, I suggest if everybody's amenable, we could do the bonfire remotely, and then we would have to get together on or around the 25th of May for an in-person meeting so that we can do the final evaluation and make a recommendation based upon that. Then we would have the June Finance and Audit Committee would prepare it for for the full board, and then the board would make the final selection, approve the selection in the July meeting. Does that timetable seem workable for everybody involved? So what I'd like to do is there any, okay, there's no questions on the proposed timeline. Is there a motion to approve the timeline?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Could you take the vote? Oops, I'm sorry.
I just have one point. It's not a question, and I know you're in an active motion, but just want the board, the committee members to check, and I'll have staff check. Seems that in July, we have a hard time getting a quorum for the board meeting. So just wanted to point that out. We'll try to make sure that we address that. But as I see that July 18th Board of Directors is listed there, just want to make sure we do our due diligence to ensure that you have a quorum to approve this.
Okay. Everybody take note of that if we would, please.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's being opened more and more for a little bit of meeting-free period, which is a rare opportunity on the part of the county commission. So I think that's a good point. Also, as much as we can, I know Director Schisler mentioned the virtual meeting. I always think that those are good opportunities when we can do them for just recommendations and
Sure.
things like that, so.
Well, the only one that we really have to be present for is the one selection meeting. I believe that's, Ms. Mandel, is that,
Yes, you do need to be present, you need a physical quorum present for that meeting and for your ultimate decision.
right,
You know, the committee meetings, when you don't have a quorum present, they really turn into workshops.
right.
So you can have a discussion and you can have consensus, you just can't take formal action, that would be within your minutes. But it really has the same effect when you're reaching that consensus for a recommendation.
Sure.
So it doesn't really, I think, affect the decision-making process, but those two meetings, which is the selection committee meeting where you are obligated to create a recommendation and the ultimate approval, those you do need a physical quorum present.
Okay, cool. As long as everybody's on the same page with that, we can move forward and get this done. Okay.
That is a Wednesday, the May 25th is a Wednesday, and I know the county has got a hold space in the afternoon for a workshop, so if it's going to be in the morning, it's not in any of our normal meeting days, so we may want to do an inventory just in case that day becomes a problem for other board members. It's not for me at the moment, but just
Okay,
wanted to raise-
we'll keep that in mind, working with staff to facilitate.
Okay.
Okay, cool, thank you. Roll call.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the proposed vendor list?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lastly, is there a motion to approve the statement of work?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everybody also should have received a copy of the existing contract, the current contract, so to give you a relative idea of what we're dealing with what's expected in these proposals. So if we, in our numerous idle moments, if we could take a look at that, and so that we're all up to speed as much as we can. Thank you very much to the committee members. It's been a long morning. Is there any old business? Seeing none, is there any new business? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'd like to quickly get an update on the RAISE grant that was due on April 14th, the community projects funding request due on April 15th, and where we are with the status on the other grants regarding bus and bus facilities that are due on the 31st and the low emissions on May 31st. This was all brought to us when we had our legislative update earlier in the year, and it showed it being on the horizon, but I don't recall seeing it updated. So if it's somewhere, that's great, but it was on our agenda previously when it came to legislative issues, and so I was just curious if we could get, maybe at the next meeting, an update on where those stand.
Ms. LeGrand?
Yes, we will be able to provide you with an update at the next meeting.
Excellent, thank you so much. Other than that, I'm good.
Thank you very much. Any new business? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.